Hey everybody, how's it going? Here it is, one of those late nights. Just got off work, I was sitting at the house, and I was like, I got some new parts in for the Cafe Racer. Gotta go do it. Else my mind's gonna go 100 miles an hour all night, never gonna be able to sleep. Just get done what I can. The parts that I have gotten in, I got the CVT transmission that I'm gonna be using. I also got the rear sprocket. I figured it up today with some calculations, and my final ratio from the transmission to the rear wheel is 5-to-1, and the CVT transmission I believe it goes 4-to-1 in the low end, and on high end it actually goes 0.9-to-1 overdrive. So all in all, top speed, if I leave the governor on the engine that I'm using, I'll be able to get 60 miles an hour, which for this little thing, that's really all I need. I'll be putting around town with it, but the low end torque should be amazing with this transmission I got. I got them laid out on the bench here so I can show them to you, and I'll also do a brief breakdown of how a CVT transmission works. Pretty simple. It's awesome. A lot of new cars are using them actually for a full car. I believe Nissan's using them a lot, and somebody else, can't remember. Anyway, I've used this transmission before on a go-kart that I had, and I've also used it on a scooter I built. I don't know if you checked out any of my videos on my Ruckus trike build-up, but that I didn't have it in the videos, but now it's got one on there. Works like a dream. It's so nice to have the low-end power and be able to go all the way to that overdrive with no work, no shifting. My handlebar controls are all going to be so clean because I don't have a clutch cable or anything like that. Anyway, here's the parts on the bench. So here's the first piece we'll go over. This is just a cover, but it's this piece right here is called the variator. And what it does is this plate with this spacer here sits on here, and the belt is obviously tight inside of here, and what happens is I think it's actually loose. We'll take that cover off right now. Anyway, so this is on there, and as the engine spins, inside here you can see this shaft is keyed. These weights sling out, this two springs holding it in, and tighten this pulley together, which would cause the belt on the inside here to ride up higher. So now we'll move to the next step. That is the variator. This is the driven pulley. This is the mounting bracket that comes with the kit I bought. So you can imagine the variator is on the front here. It's open. You start to go, giving it gas. Those weights sling out, start to close it, which pulls on this spring here, which is pushing this belt. It's a little resistance to help keep it in the low range. So anyway, this one starts to close up, pulls the belt tighter. This spaces wider, dropping the belt, and this driven pulley changing the gear ratio as you go. All it does is it works off a centrifugal force here, slinging these weights out depending on the RPM. This spring tries to help keep everything in low range. This overpowers it, pulling the belt down in further, up higher on here, changing the gear ratio. Comes with this nice cover, goes over there, cleans everything up. So that'll be on the side of the engine. I think it'll look pretty good. Might get a sticker or something to put on there. Here's the belt that it comes with. This is an asymmetrical belt, so you need to be really careful when you put it on. One side is I believe like a 5-degree, like really light, can barely see it. This side is a 30-degree, and you need to be sure when you put it on here that it's correct. You can see this one is obviously slanted, and this one's almost flat. So you need to make sure that the 30-degree angle is on this side, the 5-degree angle on this side. I put it on wrong one time, smoked it in like 30 minutes. Really frustrating. Here's the box of bolts that it comes with. It comes with everything that you need to bolt it right onto the a 6.5 horsepower GX200 or anything along those lines. Comes with a brass bushing here for the belt to ride on. This is a spacer that goes in there that lets this ride out while keeping it keyed on the shaft. And again, like I said, this is the cover, just sits on there to keep everything neat and tidy. I haven't shown you guys the progress that I've made on the bike, so I'll go ahead and get to that. Painted it. Whoa. White. Didn't know how I felt about it at first, but it's growing on me. Still have to make a little plate to come over right here to cover up all that stuff, but no big deal. I honestly wish I would have waited to paint it till I had the motor mounts and everything welded on, because now I'm going to have to grind that down and repaint it once I get the motor mounted up. But I couldn't do it until I had the transmission to get the right spacing for the chain to go back to the back sprocket. So, oh well. Got the foot pegs mounted. They're chrome. Don't really know how I feel about that, but I think it'll complement the stainless steel muffler. Yeah, I got the muffler mounted on there. You can see it. I don't know if you can or not, but it has a nice little turnout that actually comes this way, so it's not going to be directed directly at the wheel. Has a removable baffle I might take use of depending on how it sounds once I get everything buttoned up, but I'll come back in just a little bit once I get the CVT transmission mounted up to the engine and kind of set it on there with some flat plate steel that I'm going to use to bolt to the bottom of the engine, rough it up with my lines, go ahead and weld it on. So I got to thinking about it, and I figured you guys would want to see how this CVT bolts on there. You have a little spacer here. This needs to go on there first. That actually keeps this part of the variator from bottoming out on the crank. So anyway, then you take the mounting plate here. This is the mounting plate. You set it on there on the angle. See, it has all these holes, so you can do several different configurations, but you find the one that works good for you. Okay, got my holes lined up. It comes with all the hardware is included. We'll find that. Go ahead and put a bolt in there. Gonna have to run and get a ratcheting wrench real quick. Don't want the engine to fall off the table. Once you've got all these bolts snugged down, again, make sure you have that spacer on there. Now we can slide this part on there. Just make sure the keyway lines up. It'll slide right in. It has just enough clearance on those bolts. You take your belt with make sure your angles are correct. Slide it on. Well, I'll take this pulley off first. That spacer. Okay, so that's sitting on there. Spacer back on. The other side of the variator, it'll slide onto these keys. Comes with this little shouldered piece that actually locks it all together. This is the dust cover. This actually is keyed, so it'll slide right into the correct location. Again, included hardware. Slides all the way in and catches the threads in the end of the crank. Go ahead and tighten this up. Well, turning the engine over. go ahead and do it with the impact driver, make a quick job out of it. So, just thank God for video editing, because I ran into an issue. I got a little overzealous when I was putting this bolt in, stripped out some of the bolt and kind of messed up the threads inside the crank. Not a good thing to do. Take your time. So what I ended up having to do was chase the threads in the crank, and also chase the threads on the bolt. Anyway, all mounted on there now, good to go. So this is kind of loose right now, and what happens is, as I explained earlier, the weights sling out on this, squeeze this top part, it'll grab, start to close the belt in, closing this part down. Well, that's it, mounted up to the engine. Looks pretty neat. It'll set on the bike like that. The chain actually goes on the very inside here. There's a sprocket. This kit I bought comes with two interchangeable. You can either do a 12-tooth number 35 chain or a 10-tooth number 40/41. Anyway, that's that on there. I'll go ahead and try to get some mounts for the bottom and hook it up, set it on the bike. I got two of the mounts welded on and painted. The way I did it was I took the engine, set it on there, lined up with a rope to make sure it lined up with the rear sprocket and the sprocket on the transmission. I had to take it back off to get to these mounts. Anyway, set the motor on there, had it all lined up, drilled these holes in these mounts so that I could stick it on the engine itself. So had those little tabs bolted to the engine, tacked it onto the frame to where I knew it was lined up, removed the engine, fully welded both those. I can't remove this bolt now that it's on there, but you can take the engine in and out and set it on there and still have it. I don't know what I'm going to do about the other side. I don't really have very much room with this cross tube being that wide. So I'm going to have to figure something out to get at least a third mount on there, because I don't trust just the two. So I'm going to maybe have another one here on the rear. I'm going to get these two bolted up and make sure the engine sits on there correctly, and then go from there with the other side. So here's the engine mounted up. I still haven't done anything with the mount on this side yet, but I'll figure it out. So the CVT is lined up. I took this rope here to pull it tight to make sure that it's all going to line up correctly. So now I'll be able to put this this cover on here. And tidy it all up. It'll look pretty neat. Unfortunately, I'm going to go ahead and have to finish up the video for tonight, but made a ton of progress in just this short amount of time. I went ahead and hooked up the throttle cable so you can see it working here. So that's good. Got that hooked up. Went ahead and got the CVT mounted on there. Got the cover on there. You have to cut out whatever section you need to cut out for the chain to be able to run properly through that cover, but looks all nice and tidy. Engine in there. Gonna be an awesome little bike. Thanks for watching, guys.